Hello and welcome to episode 2 of the Gangrene Against the World podcast. I'm Allan Simon. It is officially Packers week 1 of the NFL preseason for the New York Jets. And the Jets have been making a lot of news this week. Not the news we want, but the news we come to expect day in and day out as a New York Jets fan. And it all starts with the play of Justin Fields. And the preseason's funny, right? Because we just are consuming as much as we can online. We don't get to see a whole lot, but we're just going to take in what the Jets beat reporters give us. And that is, really plain outlines of what the play has been for Justin Fields. And we're seeing, 2 of 10 with an interception. We're seeing no touchdowns in the last week of practice. And overall, just not the play you would want to see from your starting quarterback. And what I think is important, we all do, is to just calm down. They have not played another team yet. They're playing against their own defense. This is a quarterback on his third team with a brand new offense, with skill players around him that are brand new to the system too. Some of them are rookies. Some of them are getting another shot. And I think we just need to take a breath and just appreciate the fact that this is a new regime. It is going to take some time for this to build properly. But also what we haven't seen is what Justin Fields is best at, and that is being a running quarterback. So although it's frustrating that what we're seeing in the tweets and what we're seeing, the snippets that we see online or in the news doesn't look great, just remember Justin Fields isn't going to do what he does best in the preseason unless he's playing in a live game. Like, hopefully he'll get some reps against the Packers in week 1. But it has been frustrating. I think it also illuminates a little bit that, hey, maybe the receiving core around Justin Fields isn't good enough. And, there's veterans out there that they could sign, but there's a reason why Amari Cooper isn't on the team right now, right? There's a reason why some of these veterans you could get are just sitting there and waiting. And if I were to guess, we're going to walk into week 1 of the regular season against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and Josh Reynolds is going to be the second wide receiver. But the way we get to a 9-win season, which is the framework of everything we talked about so far in this preseason, is, again, to not have the quarterback have the second most pass attempts in the league like Aaron Rodgers had last year for the Jets, when really we're hoping for a bottom 10 pass attempt team. We're looking to be a top 5 running team. There are 3 really good running backs on the squad. There's an elite running quarterback in Justin Fields. So I want to see Fields progress as a passer. If he is a long-term solution at quarterback for the Jets, he's going to have to become a top 15 passer, a top 20 passer. But let's just take everything with a grain of salt. Again, these are guys in practice jerseys playing against their own folks. I do think it's important that we see starters week 1 against the Packers. And in this new 3-game preseason where game 3 is really a scrimmage, I don't expect to see a lot of Justin Fields, but it would behoove the Jets to give him some live reps against another team, against another defense. This way, when they walk into week 1, they already have felt that pressure of real game action, and Josh Reynolds can learn what Justin Fields is going to do when he's scrambling. All these little things that are important to winning football games, it is so hard to feel those things out in scrimmages. Also, we've seen a few players banged up, which is going to happen in the preseason. This has been a very physical camp, so I expect there's going to be more injuries. Braylon Allan is one that's a little concerning because, again, he's the between the tackles thumper. He had a little bit of a hard time staying healthy last year. He certainly peaked early on and then slowed down a bit. But getting spelled by Isaiah Davis and having Breece Hall have a heavy workload in the passing game and the rushing game, I think will benefit Braylon Allan. He does not need to carry the ball 25 times, though I think there's a world in which he could be that kind of running back. But we want to see him get healthy. What I'd also want to see soon, though, in terms of veterans, Man, they need to bring in a defensive lineman. We talked about this last week. Jadeveon Clowney is sitting there. We're about to get way too much of the same look defensive line as last year, and that's going to be a problem. Again, Michael Clemens as a starting defensive end is not exactly have the feel of a top 10 defense. And I'm not saying that Clowney, saves everything, but it just adds more depth. It takes more pressure off of the studs on this defense. They have a little bit of support around them as well. And again, if you can shore up the defensive line, it just makes the linebackers play that much better. So what I want to see heading into this game against the Packers, and we're going to have Mike Wadsworth join us to give us the Packers perspective in a few moments. But one, I want to see some first-team reps across the board. I want to see a lot of Isaiah Davis. I want to be able to see what can we get out of Josh Reynolds and Tyler Johnson and, Arian Smith, the pick from the Jets this year. Does he have any juice to him? I'm curious to see how he looks with a heavy workload in the preseason. Overall, get out of it healthy, but I want this team to start shaping up a little bit into the squad we're going to see come week 1 against the Steelers. And also, I'm just happy to see Aaron Glenn on the sideline. Aaron Glenn talking about at the green and white scrimmage, which in a lot of ways was a disaster. It was not a clean scrimmage by any means, but it was really cool to see Aaron Glenn really appreciate the moment. Really appreciate that he is the head coach of the New York Jets, and all that means to him is his journey after a player from being a scout all the way to being the person running the show. So we'll get to see him on the sideline for the first time as an NFL head coach. And overall, again, preseason games are so much less about the opponent than it is about the team themselves. But what we're going to do here at the Gangrene Against the World podcast, because it is the Jets against the world, is we're always going to bring someone in to give the perspective of the opponent. So we're going to have Mike Wadsworth come in. We're going to talk a little bit about the Packers. I also want to hear his perspective, what it was like to watch Aaron Rodgers play for the Jets and what he thinks of Aaron Rodgers' current situation, because the trauma of the Aaron Rodgers years is still very fresh for Jets fans, so I'm curious to get his take on this. So we'll speak with him in just a moment, but first I want to throw it back to one of the great moments in Jets history. It's a little taste of the last time the Jets won the division. Go back to 2002, it was against the Packers, and it was a game that we all remember very well when they knew that the Miami Dolphins had lost, and it gave them a chance to clinch the division and make the playoffs, and they routed the Packers that game. So we'll get a little taste of that, and then Mike Wadsworth coming up here on the Gangrene Against the World podcast.
Downfield and Ford trying to hit Donald Driver just beyond it. But the preliminary signal, and Adam Vinatieri has just kicked the field goal to give the New England Patriots a come-from-behind 27-24 victory, and now the Jets have all to play for with the AFC East on the line in this game.
This is going to be unbelievable the rest of the way through this football game.
Again, the Jets couldn't be any better in the red zone than they have been today. 3rd down and 12, and the pass caught by Wayne Prevent. Prevent throwing in for another score. 18-yard pass. And the Jets are running away with it. Early here in the 4th quarter, the New York Jets scoring on their 4th straight possession.
Welcome back to the Gangrene Against the World podcast. I'm Allan Simon. With me with the Packers perspective as we go into week 1 of the NFL preseason is Mike Wadsworth. So, Mike, thank you so much for joining me this morning.
Thanks, Al. Happy to be here.
Yeah, this is exciting. So, we were texting beforehand about how we want to start things off, and he who will not be named, we'll bring him up. And I want to start with Aaron Rodgers. So I'm curious, from a Packers fan perspective, obviously you did this before where Brett Favre leaves and joins the Jets. It felt very different with Aaron Rodgers. What was it like first when you saw that the Jets was going to be his landing spot? Did you think that was a good fit? And then overall, just what was the Packers fan take of the dumpster fire that was Aaron Rodgers with the Jets?
I think the Packers played this right. It was time for Love to take over. It was pretty evident when you step back and you were seeing the emergence and the prime rise of Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, that we were far away from that youthful bounce with Aaron Rodgers, and it was time to give Love his opportunity. And, of course, you wish the best for Aaron. You hope this is going to be a Peyton Manning Broncos situation, and that's what he's still gunning for. The defense was there on the Jets. I think Rodgers trying to bring all these guys along with him, the Allen Lazards, the Randall Cobbs, wasn't the move, but I think it's important to frame sort of what what led to that for Rodgers to understand it. You're talking about him trying to get back to another Super Bowl, doesn't even get back, win another Super Bowl. You have 2013 where your season ends in the playoffs against the Niners on a field goal. The next 2 seasons, your season ends on overtime touchdowns in the playoffs. The next year you get blown out by the Falcons in an NFC championship. Not to mention 2018, 2019, you have 2 more NFC championship losses, including at home when you pick off Tom Brady 3 times and you still lose the game. All where there was glaring weaknesses that management didn't make moves on to help get you over the hump. For a competitor like him to have to deal with that when it's out of your hands or you don't even have the ball and your season ends, I can understand psychologically how that leads you to try to, even on a management side, force the issue.
Yeah.
And try to, so I understand him wanted to bring Lazard, wanted to bring Randall Cobb, but unfortunately what he bringing in, that was he brought age with him, and you need youth in this league.
Yeah, and they went from those guys making them one of the oldest offenses in the league, and now you look at the Jets; they're going to be the second youngest team this year. There's something to having veteran leadership. I liked the ideas of, Cobb and Lazard can tell you how he likes you coming out of routes and all this kind of stuff. The reality is you got to be able to play. And the Cobb one isn't as bad, but Allan Lazard has been a disaster. I hope he gets cut. I'm sure he'll go somewhere else and find some value at another place. But yeah, that part doesn't work. And of course, it gets harder when 4 plays into your first season, when you bring in all these guys, you then, tear your Achilles. And last year, he was top 10 in almost every category in the NFL, which is hilarious to think about. It's one of the great Jets seasons of all time for a quarterback. He just didn't win. And now you see Rodgers head off to Pittsburgh. What's your feelings on what Rodgers can do there? And what do you think he'll do with the Steelers?
I mean, it's Mike Tomlin leadership. They're going to be over a 500 team. History says that's going to happen, but I don't anticipate them being much more than that. I mean, you're in the AFC with the best quarterbacks in the league. You're up against it. I mean, I know they brought in DK. We'll see what else if they make any more moves. We can't, say that anybody's done making maneuvers at this point. But I mean, maybe they're a 9 or a 10 win team and they're a first round bounce in the playoffs. I mean, obviously there's excitement with Pittsburgh. Those two have had a great relationship, Rodgers and Tomlin, over the years, even as Rodgers has said on a friend level, is what, made him come back. I mean, of course, I wish the best for him. I don't see it being a Super Bowl season for Rodgers and the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah. And neither do I. And, it's fun seeing some of the Twitter reaction from Steelers fans as Rodgers is not throwing the ball downfield in scrimmages and in practice. He's dumping it off a whole lot. DK Metcalf might be wasted on a guy who's not going to throw the ball 30 yards downfield. So that situation will be interesting. Of course, the NFL schedulers have a great sense of humor as week 1 at MetLife Stadium, it's going to be the Jets hosting Aaron Rodgers, which will either be an all-time great therapy session or you just pile on the trauma that is, being a New York Jets fan. So looking into this Packers game, I was saying before that preseason games, especially in today's NFL, it's so much more about the team itself and the opponent that you're playing. But the Packers are a really deep team, and I think it's an interesting first game for the Jets to play because the second and third tier guys on the Packers are kind of comparable to what you were going to see from the Jets starters in some places. So overall, last year the Packers get bounced by the eventual Super Bowl champions, but Jordan Love now coming in year 3, another year with LaFleur's offense, receiver room that seems pretty stacked this year after being young and thin over the last few years. What's the Packers fan mindset heading into this preseason? And just overall, are there a lot of positive vibes, a lot of excitement? How's it looking in Packers Nation?
I think it's important to point out this is year 6 for Jordan Love, his 3rd as a starter. Aaron Rodgers won a Super Bowl in his 3rd year as a starter. Bart Starr, Aaron Rodgers, and Brett Favre all won Super Bowls in their 6th season in the NFL. Jordan Love has to take a leap this year. I think that's as much with Matt LaFleur. In previous seasons, when we came up against what were the top 1 or 2 teams in our conference of that year, we need to see the 2 of them be better. Simple as that. We are the youngest team in the NFL for the 3rd straight season, and y'all are right there with us. But there's experience that's coming with that now. We are an extremely deep team. I think the defense potentially surprises people as with the ceiling being a top 5 unit in the NFL this year. We did give the Eagles the most difficult time of any team in the playoffs, and that was because of our defense. The offense was tremendously clunky at the end of the season. And again, I put that more on LaFleur, but also, Love has to take some responsibility with that. But yeah, I mean, the ceiling for this team is the Super Bowl. No doubt about it. It's, it's not just unseating the Lions as, the leaders of the North.
Yeah. And listen, that division is really tough. And, the Packers as a whole, it just seems like a deep team, on defense, although a little nondescript, they were a top 10 defense, right? And they one of the best at turning the ball over. You took, the Giants scraps and turned Xavier McKinney into an all-pro. So there's a lot there. I'm really curious. The Jets have a secondary that is very deep this year. It feels like one of their best rooms. Talk a little about Matthew Golden, the first round pick. He seems like an exciting speedster. I'm sure he's going to get a lot of action in preseason. I hate a wide receiver wearing number 22. I'll never get over that. But other than that, what are the vibes around Golden coming into his rookie campaign?
Obviously, there's no player Packer fans want to see more in preseason than Matthew Golden. I mean, it was 20 years of no first-round receivers. The draft is in Green Bay, and the guy's last name is Golden. And Mark Murphy goes out there right as he's about to exit as president, and we get a first-round wide receiver. Now, Golden, tremendous speed. What jumps out with him is his body control is unbelievable, and the strength of his hands at the point of the catch should be a difference maker in the league. Jordan Love has not even hesitated when asked to say who of the new guys coming in, who's the most impressive player. It's hard to say what his stats look like, but they spread the ball around, and we have a lot of great Jaden Reed, Romeo Doubs, Dontavian Wicks, who are representing today. Hope to see him make a jump this year as well. Tucker Kraft, I think, has an opportunity to be one of a top 5 tight end in the league this season. So, yeah, the receiver room's extremely deep, and Matthew Golden, there's no player Packer fans want to see more.
Yeah, he's an exciting guy. And Kraft, this is going to be his second full year as the starting tight end in his third overall season. He very quietly has put together a great season last year, and that gives plenty of folks for Love to throw to. So on top of that, you have a running game that, an aging running back, but it used to be in the NFL, these aging running backs don't work, but now we got a few of them, and Josh Jacobs, certainly one of the better ones. He had a great year last year. Overall, what do you expect from that offensive line, and what do you expect from Jacobs?
We added what are now 2 of our heaviest offensive linemen, including Aaron Banks, guys that are familiar with the zone running scheme. We're not going to get pushed around by the Eagles' defensive line, and that was obviously a main point in acquiring those guys. It's going to be the same zone running scheme. Josh Jacobs is going to get the ball a lot. Packer fans are a little down on Marshawn Lloyd dealing again with injury.
Mm-hmm.
This preseason, he's been injury plagued. He was a 3rd-round picked ahead of the likes of a guy like Bucky Irving, who's already standing out in the league. So if he can stay healthy, that will be a huge addition. We still have Emmanuel Wilson, and we'll see if we keep Brooks. But, yeah, the running game is going to be a focus, and we should be leaning heavily on it this season again.
Yeah, and so with, everything I'm seeing, I'm watching, Good Morning Football, and they're talking about how this needs to be the year that Love takes the leap and the Packers need to be Super Bowl contenders. What does that look and feel like? What would be the things you would see at the end of a successful season where they make a conference championship or a Super Bowl? What are the differences from last year to this year that would have to happen for that team to make that leap?
Jordan Love being more consistent with the help of Matt LaFleur and his play calling. LaFleur comes into games with really interesting concepts, and I don't want to see more of an adjustment from him in the middle of some of these games. We adjusted tremendously on the defensive side of the ball going into the second halves. I think from the receiver point of view, it's seeing the roles emerge a little bit more. Hopefully Golden becomes that true number 1. Drops were a huge issue last year. Jaden Reed and Wicks were in the top 3, maybe 5 in the league in drops. So that's got to stop. But again, and continue growth from Tucker Kraft, the running game staying as good as it was. But yeah, I think in the wide receiver role, we want to see who you're going to go to on certain plays. Or even Dontavian Wicks, I expected him to take a jump last year, and we didn't use him the same way we did the previous season, and that was a little confusing to me. So hopefully, playing to the strengths of our receivers and those roles getting more defined, LaFleur getting more consistent, play calling wise. and of course with Jordan Love as well.
Yeah, no, it's hard to believe or imagine what it must be like to wake up every August and be like, hey, I root for a team that I think is legitimately an option that they could make a Super Bowl run, where right now in Jets Nation, we're just talking about what has to go perfectly for the Jets to win 9 games. And one of those things has to be Justin Fields. So I'm curious, you saw a lot of Justin Fields when he was with the Bears. We all saw him put up some decent numbers with the Steelers before he got removed for Russell Wilson. When you watched, Fields, especially in that sophomore campaign, which has been the best of his career, what was your sense of Justin Fields as a quarterback?
So I think the Jets are getting Fields on a great contract.
Definitely.
And he has the talent to bring in this era for Aaron Glenn. I mean, the contract usually says what it is, and that is he's going to be here this year. Probably next year he's good enough to bring things in, but he's got a lot to prove if he's going to be the guy of the future. I personally don't think that Justin Fields is the future of the Jets.
Mm-hmm.
He has physical talent that's obvious, and that most guys in the league don't have. You could say that early, obviously when we were seeing him with the Bears, that you're just coming into the league, there's a lot to learn. You can grow from that. There was always just Fields seemed to lack a natural awareness on the field that you see from the top guys like Mahomes or Josh Allen. It's like, how did they know that guy was right behind him, or how did they know to move exactly to that spot? Fields seems to lack that, and it's just my sense that negates some of that physical ability. But looking at it realistically, you said perform as a top 20 quarterback. And I think that's pretty reasonable. And he deserves the opportunity that he's getting. And I think again, based on the contract, it is a good situation for the Jets to bring in this new era.
Yeah,
sure.
Especially, if I'm Aaron Glenn and I'm given a contract that's 5 years, and I'm basically being told you have an opportunity to massage this roster and grow it over time. Fields is the perfect, low risk, high reward type of player. Listen, there was competition to bring him in. I think Garrett Wilson being here, his former team at Ohio State, is a big deal, but what I want Jets fans to temper is the chaos and the panic we're already seeing, in this first couple weeks of preseason. And I do think, although Garrett Wilson being here is a big deal for Justin Fields, I think Justin Fields being here is a reason Garrett Wilson signed his extension. It's been a long time since those guys played together. I mean, we're talking, 4 or 5 years ago now. So I think in a perfect world, Fields gets some reps on Saturday against the Packers. That's what my hope is. I mean, Steve Young has talked about for years how the NFL season now, those first 4 weeks are really the preseason, right? It's hard to get a sense of who the best teams are until you get closer to Thanksgiving, really, right? And for teams like the Jets, it's an opportunity to steal some wins, right? That beginning of that schedule is really, really tough, where you got Steelers and Bills, and you have the Bucks, and then you have to play against Miami, who's always, a thorn in their side. So getting these live reps in a game situation against someone who's not on the same team as you, and it's not a scrimmage against the Giants, on the lawn, I think it's so important that they have those sort of real game situations to take from. So overall, just what's your gut say about the Packers?
Sometimes you got to try to separate your fandom from what you really think, but I think the ceiling's really high for this team. I think we're going to win the division. They're absolutely a playoff team, and I expect us to be at least in an NFC championship. That's the expectation, and the expectations should be high. They should be high. We might have one of the best defensive players in the league, and it's not Xavier McKinney this year. It could be Edgerrin Cooper. I think this guy is an absolute stud, and if there's anyone to look out for on the defensive side from us, it's him. So, yeah,
there you go.
Expectations should be high.
No, that's exciting stuff. And listen, this Packers team is easy to root for. Jordan Love is a guy it's easy to root for. And listen, does the whole league hate that you have 3 quarterbacks in the last, 30 some years? Sure, we hate that. But I'm looking forward to week 1 of the preseason. I think there's key players on both teams that need to really pop, in order to make a roster, become a starter. So I'm looking forward to it. Mike, thanks so much for joining me today. You're the first guest on the Gangrene Against the World podcast, and it's very exciting.
I'm honored. Thanks for having me, and I look forward to what you build here.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Mike. I want to thank Mike Wadsworth for joining us on the Gangrene Against the World podcast. And week 1 coming up in the preseason, Jets versus Packers Saturday. And since we've had that conversation, a little news is broken as Aaron Glenn announced today at training camp that the starters will play on Saturday. And I think that's really great. I think it is essential that this starting group gets a feel for each other, that they get game ready. Like we talked about in the conversation with Mike, Steve Young has always talked about how in the current NFL system, if you don't play your stars in the preseason, which most folks don't, you're going to be taking the first few weeks of the season to really get the rust off and to get in the rhythm with folks. And it's essential that the Jets have a fast start. They have a tough schedule. They can't wait till week 5 to start to mesh, and then they're 1-4 and they're clawing back and trying to find a way to a winning record. So I really like that from Aaron Glenn. And with that said, every week heading into the game for the Jets, I'll be giving you 5 things to look for. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. Starting at number 5, Isaiah Davis. Now, although Breece Hall is going to get some carries with that first team, I think we're going to see a lot of Isaiah Davis coming in out of the backfield. We talked about how important it is that he has a good season, so the Jets have 3 rushers who they can use and that they can be elite on the ground this year. At number 4, Xavier Gipson is out, so that's going to leave some opportunity in the return game for Ken Nwanwu, who is an all-pro caliber returner, had a touchdown last year against the Seahawks, so excited to see him get some action. Could he displace Xavier Gipson as the returner for the Jets? Also good opportunity for Jamal Pritchett to get some action. And Arian Smith, I think it's really important. Arian Smith shows his athletic ability and shows what he can do on the field this preseason. Malachi Corley's been terrible. It looks like Malachi Corley's going to go down as another bad Jets wide receiver pick. Arian Smith does not want to go through that same feel, so he's going to have to go ahead and have a good preseason. Number 3, Adrian Martinez, who is going to be the 3rd string quarterback coming into this first preseason game, a former UFL stand-up, now in his 3rd NFL season. He could be the backup if Tyrod Taylor misses any extended time, so I'm excited to see him play against the Packers secondary. Number 2, Nick Folk is back. Old man Nick Folk kicking for the Jets again, partying like it's 2011. He has every opportunity to win this kicking job. I expect him to be the kicker week 1 against the Steelers. And number 1, we're going to see the starters. We're going to see the starters in a real game situation against a good team. We're going to see Justin Fields hopefully run a little bit, not take too many hits, but I want to see him scramble. And I really want to see how the receivers react and feel what they need to do when Fields gets outside the pocket. Where do they need to run to? How are they going to handle broken plays? He can create a lot of time. So I'm excited to see that. All in all, we want to make sure that the Jets leave this preseason game healthy, but football is a physical game. There's going to be injuries. Things are going to happen, but the best way to get better is to be out there and play. And this is already a huge shift from last year where we did not see starters at all. And when you don't have your starting quarterback playing, that's bad for everyone. It makes everyone rusty to start the years. Excited for game 1 of the preseason Jets-Packers Saturday. This has been episode 2 of the Gangrene Against the World podcast. I'm Allan Simon. Thank you so much for listening.